Uh, as I guess as a point of order, I think that's what it's called. I am. I've asked Mickey Rowland to take over chairmanship duties, and but I don't know what the order of operations is here. Like, should I open the meeting as chair, and then we make it, after I do the whole script for the meetings, and then we can discuss it and vote.
So Mickey will be the chair for all of it, is you're saying?
Well, he's going to take over my position.
Okay.
All right.
Sounds good.
But I'm going to start, right? And then
That's fine.
It'll switch over.
Go ahead and start, I guess. I just need to make a point before you, but go ahead and open it.
Okay. All right. So this is the script for remotely conducted open meetings. As a preliminary matter, this is Brooke Muirbergen, current chair. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Lucy Dillon.
Yes.
Jason Leonardo Finger.
Yes.
Angus McLeod.
Here.
Mickey Rowland.
Sure.
All right, staff, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Holly Backus.
Present.
Anticipated speakers on the agenda, there are none. Introduction to remote meeting. Good afternoon. This open meeting of the Nantucket Historic Structures Advisory Board is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, we have been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings, and as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. For this meeting, Nantucket Historic Structures Advisory Board is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and to take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along with the posted agenda unless Brooke Muirbergen, the chair, notes otherwise. We're now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I, Brooke Muirbergen, the chair, will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in a conversation with other members, please do so through the chair. Take care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. I need to unplug my phone so it doesn't ring. All right. So first order of business is that I would like to hand over chairmanship duties to Mickey Rowland. And Mr. Rowland, would you like to speak to that?
Yes. I don't think that you can assign your chairmanship to me. I think we have to re-vote upon it, you know.
Right. I was going to take a vote on it.
Okay. So you nominate me.
Yeah. So I'm going to nominate you to replace me. Is that right?
Okay, good.
All right.
Thank you.
Anybody want to make a motion to accept that nomination?
I will.
Okay. Lucy made the motion. Any seconds to accept that nomination?
Second.
All right. All right, so we'll go down the line. Roll call vote. Lucy, let's see, Jason, are you in favor of that motion?
Yes.
All right. Angus McLeod, are you in favor of that motion?
I'm gonna be, it's sorry to see you go, but yeah, sure.
Okay. Lucy, are you in favor of that motion?
Yes.
All right. And Mickey, are you in favor of that motion?
Yes.
All right. Take it away, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
Just another question maybe for you, Holly. I was asked to send in a re-up form along with somebody else. Brooke, maybe?
Mr. Chair, we have that on the end of the agenda to go over.
Oh, okay. Okay, so we'll wait till then.
We do have a need an adoption of the agenda.
Okay, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
Make a
Lucy-
motion.
Lucy signaled yes. Angus seconding. All those in favor. So Lucy, yes. Brooke,
Yes, I'm in favor.
Jason,
Yes.
Angus,
Aye.
and I'm in favor. What's next? Adoption minutes. Public comment. Looks like there isn't any. And we can start on the project list, starting with 26 Westchester Street.
So you all will probably remember this hardscape water feature application. There were a lot of similar comments from the commission that you all had about making it softer. Not thinking this was appropriate. It's a sensitive area with Lily Pond. So these are the revisions.
Okay, I'm going to just go down our names. Lucy, do you have any comments on this?
I think that the water feature is too big. I agree with Diane Coombs. I mean, that 9 by 15, that's more than a spa as far as I'm concerned, unless you're doing those California style parties. I think it, usually aren't they half that size?
Yeah, I think must be a definition separating spas with swimming pools.
There is in the zoning bylaw. Yes, I don't remember at the top of my head, but
Yeah, it's 1,000 gallons or
thank you.
2 feet deep or some other parameter. But this is at the limit. This is at the limit of that.
Sure it is. Okay.
Well, how deep is this? Do they say how deep it is?
Well, it shows 2 to 3 feet deep in the section, but I'd be willing to bet it goes deeper during construction.
Yeah.
But that's
Okay. So Brooke, you going to add to that?
yeah. Right next door is also a water feature. So it's hard to say that they can't have one while these people over to the east of them do have one. I think that there's obviously been an effort to make this more natural. The screening plan is definitely an improvement over what we have seen. I mean, it looks like it's really heavily screened. And, I don't really like it, but, I think that having one next door and that's, where they didn't even make an effort to conceal that. You can see that from Lily Pond. I think this is at least a better example of how to approach this.
Mhm. Okay. Jason?
Since I haven't been around in a while, it looks like a pool, not a water feature. Um, that said, is there a way to limit the depth of it? Because it really doesn't look like a water feature.
Well, if you go to the last page, it kind of does.
Yeah, I just don't think that. I see a lot of pools that look like that. Can we limit the depth, Holly?
I don't think that's an HDC purview because you're looking at the aesthetics aspect. And obviously at the end of the day, you all don't want to be able to see it from a public view. So I don't think you can. It has to meet zoning. So as long as it meets the zoning specs for a spa, that's the way it should be. It's going to be permitted as a spa. It needs to meet the definition of a spa.
Well, there's also another thing too, that it should be, we should find out the definition between a spa and a pool, because one would require the fencing. And then we don't see any fencing really on, I don't see any fencing on the plan.
Well, we
But
can
is it
certainly
a water
recommend that
fe-
regardless.
But is it a water feature or a spa?
It says spa.
In the zoning bylaw, the words are water feature, which is why this is entitled water feature. But she's calling it a spa on the plans because we all know what it is, and she knows we know what it is. But for application and legal purposes, she has to call it a water feature.
You think that means it doesn't need a fence?
Well, that was my question.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's not a pool, so it doesn't need a fence.
okay.
But we can ask for a fence.
Well, I don't think we really want a fence.
Yeah, I don't either.
And I think that Holly's sort of, I mean, definitely probably right. It's the depth of the feature is a zoning question more than an HDC aesthetic question.
Well, and it could be too that the final inspection, if there is a fence there, that means that maybe. What?
Go ahead.
If there's a fence there when they finish the job, maybe it means that technically it is a pool and not a spa. Understand what I'm saying?
I guess so, but by then it's all kind of done. I think that, if we want to focus on certain aspects of this thing to limit its visibility, I think size is legitimate. 9 by 15 does sound pretty big to me. And maybe we can just comment that we think it's still bigger than it should be. I guess.
I wish we there were markings on the plan of what has been revised. Was the grass terracing stone at one point? Were there
Yeah.
more retaining walls?
So I think it was much more stone.
There, that sort of formality of the steps and lawn right up to the door. I think was a concern before. I think, weren't we looking for that to be staggered a little bit so that it wouldn't be so formal? That's part of, even though the stone is separated by lawn, when you're looking at it from the front, it's stone, stone, stone house. It's you're not really seeing the flat lawn area. So I would prefer to see a little bit of staggering. But when I'm looking at the photos, unless they've been photoshopped, The lawn and the stone steps are existing in line with the porch door. Is that correct?
Is that a Photoshop or is that existing? I don't
I
know.
believe this photo right here, Mr. Chair, is existing to show that sight line from the house down.
Yeah.
So the big difference between what's existing and what's proposed is that wall of stone with the fountains coming out of it. And it does seem rather large. Even if it were 4 feet deep, that would still only be just over 500 gallons or 500 cubic feet of volume. But the wall itself, I don't know. I guess I would rather see something more naturalistic than such a monolith. It would be my biggest issue with this latest proposal.
You
And I
think
have mentioned that to the commission before. That was your comment.
the stone type, Angus, you're commenting on?
The width of and height, just the whole wall itself, if that could be broken up somehow to be a little bit more natural, whether the ends drop and the top, I don't know, something to make it less of just a rectangular block of stone. Because I think visually from the walking area down below where this would be visible, I think that's going to be the greatest impact.
Yeah. If their screening doesn't do the job, and we don't know for sure it's going to.
Well, and also screening is seasonal unless it's all evergreen.
Right. You're saying a mix of native evergreen and deciduous shrubs. Okay, I agree with all that. I think that if they can, I don't know, maybe it's the stone type or maybe just the size of that vertical wall, if that could be mitigated somehow, and also the size of the spa. I think it'd be helpful to try to reduce those. Lucy?
Yeah, if you look at the photographs down at the bottom, the 3 together, the one on the left-hand side, if you look at that, on the left-hand side, the lawn really rolls down significantly. And so they don't seem to have any retaining wall labeled on the plan. It looks like there's one. Oh, wait, I guess both of them are there. I'm sort of concerned about that and how it's going to be with the neighbors. Is that what you were talking about, Angus? Right there, that you've got two stone walls there?
Well, right. When you look at the roll of the hill, it feels very
Yeah.
natural and there's a roll, but
Yeah.
when that comes up, it's going to be a very, manipulated square, rectangular, hard edged chunk of, yeah. And I mean,
Right. Yeah, the 2 stone walls.
yeah, I think you only get the edge view of the one, but I mean, that will look unnatural, I think.
I'm trying to figure out what the reason for that limestone wall is off to the left. What is that there for?
Because of the grade change.
Yeah, they are raising the grade next to the deck so that they can put the deck on a platform and put the pool on a platform.
Harrison.
So that retaining wall may also be visible from Wesco Place.
Mhm.
But then there's the other retaining wall right next to it too.
Now that we're talking about that, I think it makes sense to have a section going the other way, east-west, so that we can see what's happening stepping down on the west side of, that west wall, the west 2 walls, and what really happens between the patio above the water feature and the west property line.
Yeah, an elevation.
Go ahead, Lucy.
Yeah, I think an elevation. I think Angus is absolutely right.
Yeah, we're not looking at any real formal elevations of this hardscaping at all. So I think that just better views all around would be very helpful.
Yeah, so a section that goes east-west, cutting through the patio, and maybe an elevation cutting through the pool, looking at that wall, and then a west elevation that shows the
Right.
profile the other way.
Yeah.
And
we're
the
not-
depth of the pool.
We're not seeing a west or a south elevation. We're just seeing these little perspectives. Okay. Any more comments on this one?
Yes, depth of the pool.
Depth of the pool.
One last thing is that in the cross section, it looks like there's still patio being shown where in the plan it's showing grass. So we want to make sure those are consistent.
There is a patio up there, Angus.
There's an upper patio, but not down at the pool level.
Wow.
If you look at the cross section that is the second from the bottom, it says Goshen patio. And that's the area where
Oh.
where the feature is.
Yeah, so a corrected cross section.
Yep. Good one. Okay. All right, moving on.
Please.
Okay, 132 Main Street, solar panels.
And thank you, Lucy, for the photos. I think that's very helpful. This was that solar that we were all concerned on. And Lucy provided photos in case anybody hasn't been able to see it. These are from the street?
They are from the street, the other side of the street. And it looked to me, and you others would know better, but it looked like the black painted 2x4s were lying on their side. And is that correct? Should they be on the side, on their sides to indicate the height of the solar panels, or upright?
Angus?
Me?
I was just on my way to the dump yesterday. I was driving down Main Street and I was driving, so I didn't like stop and take a long look, but just a glance back over my shoulder, I could spot the 2x4 on there. So it's visible without really, long, hard focus look at it.
Do you think if Lucy, you took that photograph, if you step back even further, would it be more visible?
Well, I'm about 5'2", 5'3", and I was on the other side of the street and I couldn't step it back any further.
Trying to get the other photos, sorry.
Yeah. So my only concern, I mean, I was fine if that's all you're gonna see, but if, getting back to my original comment, was that if those were, the 2x4s were lying on their sides, and is that the way the profile actual of the solar panels, or if they're upright so that they're standing 4 inches high or 3 3/4, whatever it is, that to me would be visible.
Yeah,
I think that's right. I think they're at least, like, having had friends that just put some on, they were at least 5 or more inches.
All right, so we can, if we look to the last page, all right, there is a section AA and a section BB, and these are 1 3/4 inches, more or less, from the roof, according to what I'm seeing here.
So they stand off the roof by about 1 3/4 inches. Is that?
Yeah, I would just say 2 inches.
Okay, so you're saying from the roof surface to the top surface of the panel is 2 inches.
Holly, if you go to the last page,
Yeah, it says
575.
1.575.
Yeah, but
So it's a
you
little
know,
more than 1.5 inches.
yeah, we got to factor in the inevitable adjustments that get made. All right. Well, I was also driving down the road, but coming from the dump. And, you know, and if you're looking for these, I think you'll see them, but otherwise you're not going to notice them, you know, especially that rear dormer. Maybe the forward dormer, you'll see them, but I don't think you'll ever see the tops. You might see the edges.
Well,
So that's my take on it.
I would be more concerned if we thought that we might see the flat surface of these panels. The edges, maybe if they held them back from the edge, a foot or so, is that possible?
That's what they were asking for, the commission,
Yeah.
was to push them back on the gable. I mean, the gable, the dormer.
I agree.
Yeah.
So do I.
Well, it looks like they did that in the north elevation. It's just that the east elevation, it shows it coming straight to the edge. So I think if we're explicit about how far back we want to hold the edge of the panels, then, at least there's something concrete that the HTC can hang their hat on. So let's ask for a setback of 1 foot from eave line.
And that the height can't be any more than what is spec'd in the specs, which
Okay.
is 1.57 inches from the roof.
And that includes the installation apparatus or whatever is required.
Well, the bracket shown is the installation apparatus on the section. Unless there's something else that goes down first, but I think that's it.
I agree, but we don't know for sure. But I think it's good as Angus did to stipulate that depth.
Okay. And standoff section of 1.575 inches be as constructed.
Lucy?
Well, or you could say that the top surface of the panels is not to exceed a certain 2 inches or whatever it is.
Okay.
That way there's nothing about, well, when we were installing and
So those of you that looked at were able to view this, and I should have, but I guess I just didn't. You don't think you'll see the top of these panels anywhere?
Well, I mean, I was in my pickup truck. It's not a monster pickup truck by any stretch, but and I'm not a monster person, but it's not unless I was like really looking, I wasn't going to see him.
Yeah. Okay. I'm happy with what we're saying so far. Jason, do you have any other comments?
No, I agree with what you've been saying.
Good.
I have nothing to add.
Anything else on this one? We'll move on.
Perfect.
2, 58 Wall Street, new dwelling.
It's been a while since you all saw this. It's been a while before it was with the HTC. So August. So yeah, it's been a while. This is one that, including all up on the lot. There's an overall conversation about it. Better.
Anybody ready to comment on this one?
I'll start if you want me to.
Sure.
Let's see. No particular order. The roof walk and how it hit the house looked pretty funky. The hardscaping, I wasn't sure about the parking area with the pavers. Once again, I don't see any AC units. And the skirting on the house, I wasn't sure what was that. And then on the west elevation, the lights over the doors on either side of the chimney, I didn't like. For starters, that's it.
Anybody else?
I'll go.
Okay.
All right, so based on the before and after, I think this is a vast improvement.
Mhm.
On the north elevation, I'm a little concerned about the shed dormer being so close to the eave line. It looks like it's trying to be a flush dormer, but they're running the eave line underneath the sill. So I have a little bit of concern about that. Yeah, I mean, chimney seems a little massive. And honestly, I mean, it's such an improvement that I have to say I like it.
Well, that's a backwards way of liking something. Angus?
I have the same concerns about that flush dormer. It is a flush dormer. There's no there's no eave there to have anything come across. So it's I think disingenuous to be showing that in that elevation that there's any roof coming across there. And likewise, I think the gable in the north elevation is the same thing where it's flush to the end, but they're showing a rake board.
Mm.
So again, I have a problem with showing something that's really not happening.
Again, Angus, I don't see that. Which on the gable?
On the north elevation, the rake comes down and it looks like there's a corner board there, but it's just dividing trim. On the right-hand side.
Right in the middle.
Yeah, right in the middle.
Sort of. That there is on the west. There is a setback to that other gable, a few, 2 or 3 feet.
Oh, I'm reading that incorrectly. I apologize. I'm looking now at the new east elevation, which I guess is the, what gives the setback of the dormer. So it is setback. I still have an issue with the flush dormer. And somehow the roof walk looks better being in that high gable rather than, instinctively in the middle of the house.
So what was that? I'm sorry. Say that again.
Oh, just that the roof walk, even though it's scooting to the side instead of being in the center of the mass, it looks more correct since the other mass drops and is more secondary.
Got it. Yep. Jason?
On the west elevation, I don't think there should be transoms over those doors with all the glass in them.
Mm-hmm.
It looks rather silly. I kind of am not a fan of the, sorry, it's cut off. I don't know what elevation I'm looking at. West, it's the one after the west elevation. I guess it's the
South.
south. I kind of have a issue is it looks like our train cars. The windows are all, they might be different sizes, but they really look like they're just all lined up, one after the other, after the other, after the other.
Train cars, I like that.
And then same thing on the east, the dormer and then the windows below, they're again all lined up, and then you have all this space first floor where the windows could be maybe separated out a little bit. And also typically we never used to approve roof walks that were sitting on tops of dormers, and that's what that's doing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. You know, I'm going to bring back maybe what I was alluding to earlier. Looking at the elevation in the west, that same. At the north, that gable seems to be behind, pushed back behind a shed roof, projecting forward. And there's even a little bit of a enclosed, like porch area to the left, but an open porch in the center to the right of it. But now you look at the west elevation, and that gable looks like it's all the way forward on top of that shed. You see what I'm talking about here?
Oh, right here.
That's a negative mass.
Look at the, it's probably, but also look at the shed roof on the north elevation. It goes all the way from left, 2/3 of the way through the building, that lower shed roof. See that?
Mm-hmm.
Now look at the west elevation, and the gable goes all the way and sits at the very end of that shed.
Weird.
Anybody see what I'm talking about?
I'm not quite seeing it, Mickey. Can you explain again?
I'm gonna try again. All right, north elevation,
Yeah.
the shed roof, which creates like a porch. And
Holly, you still here?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yes. I see what you're talking about, Mickey.
that goes from left to right
Yeah.
across 2/3 of the building. Now look at the west elevation. You'll see that upper gable projects all the way to the left. There's no shed roof in front of it. It's technically sitting on the shed roof.
Holly, can I screen share? I just want to draw this because I think I know what.
What is that extension? It's like a balcony or something
Hang on.
above the porch in that west elevation.
Yeah.
Roof.
But there's
Oh,
like
what are you
a
saying?
horizontal area.
No, it's the roof line of the gable.
Yeah, it should read like this. Actually, hang on a second. This red area,
Yeah. It's shingles.
yeah, it just should be wall.
Yeah, I mean, there's
I mean,
it's flush
maybe,
with those 3 windows.
yeah, that should read as wall.
Well, however it's meant to be is pretty unclear, although how about the floor plan? What does that tell us? No. Is there a second floor?
Yeah.
Well, it definitely goes over that entry, and honestly, I think it would look better if they did it correctly.
That's the one. So it is a big flush box, just broken up in a funny way. Okay.
If you scroll down to the west elevation there, yeah, where your pointer is there. Yeah, right above there. Okay, so that's the rest of the gable. Okay,
Yes, the
I was
side
wondering
of
what
the
that
gable.
right angle thing was.
Yeah. So while you're right there, Holly, that pointer, that little shed roof is only about 3 feet, 2.5 feet deep. I think that's a very awkward, short shed. I think that's, either make it a shed or get rid of it because it's just too narrow as it is. I think it should be deeper. which would make that gable, second floor gable narrower. I mean, I like having a shed roof and a porch roof facing Wall Street to break up the height, but it's awkward. It's just, you know, nobody would do that 100 years ago or 50 years ago. It's just for looks, and it's awkward. So I think the front north elevation needs to be corrected and drawn properly and rethought. It's not working. That little shed piece doesn't work for me.
Are we talking about on the north elevation, pushing that shed dormer back a couple of feet?
Well, there's that's shown as, yeah, that's a whole nother thing. That's shown as a flush dormer. That should be pushed back. But just I'd like to see that whole, if you look at the west elevation, that whole secondary gable that shed dormer is sitting on, that should be narrower to give more depth to that porch roof. It's only a few feet wide.
Yeah.
You know, they could shingle that wall and we'd never know.
Which wall?
On the west elevation.
Well,
And put a window there and then never know.
Or actually get rid of the porch and just have the that secondary gable continue all the way down to where they have the porch roof.
All right. Well, we obviously agree on that it needs help.
yeah, it's awkward. It needs fixing. And it's not working the way it is. On all the shed dormers are shown as flush, and they should be recessed back a foot from the eave line.
Can we please see this back
Yeah.
with revisions?
Absolutely.
AC units too.
I mentioned that last time.
I would like to add, just make sure that whatever note goes into the HDC, that it's moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's just that,
Definitely.
Yes.
you know, it's just that there's some drafting inconsistencies.
Now I'm going to point out one more drafting problem. In the south elevation, that center section, which is right in the middle, the eave line is shown way too low. It's really up, comes right off of the main gable.
One last thing, when the drafting's happening, cardinal directions on the plan. I mean, it's nice to see whatever elevation south, the
Scale.
south, east, west, but also what's the front, what's the back, what's the side?
This needs a lot of corrections and modifications. Okay. Moving on.
Please.
So, where are we?
Our favorite.
Oh, I'm exhausted already.
So I have it on the bottom of the agenda, but I know I can talk about it right now. That we have this scheduled with the HDC on the 30th, special meeting at 10 o'clock in the morning. I know you all would want to, if you can.
I plan to attend that meeting. I have a lot to say about this one. And I thought that if you're interested, I'll read you my notes on what I plan to say. Anybody want to hear it?
Yes, please.
Holly, maybe on the screen you can scroll down to the view that shows the 4 elevations at the same time.
Yes. Sorry. Which one? This one?
They're right there. Just now zoom in on the 4 elevations so we can see them clearly.
Okay.
All right. So this is a highly visible location and will set a precedent for future vertical expansion downtown. Except for Main Street and Petticoat Row, all of the buildings in town are detached, independent structures of varying shapes and sizes, especially on the side streets like Cambridge Street and Still Dock. Is that the name of the side street here? Is it Still Dock?
It
Still
runs-
Dock is behind the old Five and Dime, whatever that is now.
What's the name
Yeah.
of the side street?
Dock Street.
Dock Street. Okay. Okay, this block should follow that existing pattern and at least pretend to appear as a cluster of independent buildings joined in the back and the side. Cambridge and Dock Street should have buildings that have a facade on the street rather than just a jumble of large, awkward masses. So starting on the west elevation, in front of the building, to me, that's actually sort of the least objectionable. In fact, this view, there are photographs that have come up that show a two-story building in this location prior to this building. They tore down a two-story building kind of this shape before they built Hardee's, which actually what used to be the A&P. So I'm saying that west elevation is probably the least objectionable. I'm not sure why they've shown 12 pitch dormers rather than a 9, where the main roof is a 9 pitch. Moving to the north elevation facing Cambridge Street, this is where they have the best opportunity to actually improve the current appearance of the building. This side feel like there were originally a few buildings that were later joined together. And because Cambridge is more of a side street, they should be smaller in scale to the large building facing South Water Street. The ridge height should be lower and the general massing reduced. The scale needs to be brought down to a more human scale. Even though the doors don't go into the shops, the facade
Yeah.
could be made to look more friendly rather than the imposing wall that is shown. Maybe just more fenestration would help. The massing should be a simple gable rather than a flat, hipped roof with a deck perched on top. This hipped roof section is only about 3 feet deep on the left and then tapers out much wider, deeper to the right. It's a very awkward, odd shaped mass for the front facade of a building, and it shouldn't have a deck overlooking the street below it. The connecting roof line should be lower than the main ridges and not 3 stories and be minimally visible at the second floor level. On the south elevation, similar comments to the north side. It should look like a smaller independent buildings that were later connected, maybe even change a roof pitch to help sell that concept. The small gable that is shown has a better scale, but without a front door, it just looks like an additive mass on the facade of a building. And then the same comments about the connecting roof, it shouldn't be 3 stories. It should be minimally visible at the second floor level. On the east side, this side of the building doesn't really need a facade because it is set back pretty far from Easy Street, but it shouldn't look like one long structure stretching from Cambridge to Dock Street. It should look like the back or the sides of 3 separate buildings that were later connected. Considering the height and scale of the suggested facades facing Cambridge and Dock Street, it probably shouldn't even have a 3rd floor. There should be much more variation in the massing and breaks in the roof lines. The hipped roof piece doesn't work at all. They don't need an elevator going to the 3rd floor, and you are not obligated to approve a very awkward massing to accommodate one. In general, there is an opportunity here to make this block feel like it fits into the scale of the rest of downtown. The proposal does the opposite. The HDC is not obligated to approve a massive apartment building at this location. The developer isn't entitled to add this much volume. He's simply asking for too much. This is downtown Nantucket and should have streetscapes and buildings that fit into the existing scale and character. So That's my lengthy response.
Mickey, would you mind emailing that to me when you get a moment?
Holly, I'm going to attend the meeting. I can read this
Perfect.
myself on the, when it comes up, could you alert Ray that before they make their
Well,
comments?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think since this is going to be a special meeting, yeah, I'll be letting him know that there's concerns from HSAB. Definitely, yes.
And can Mickey's statement be added to the file in writing?
Yes, that's why I was asking if he can
Okay.
provide that to me. I can make sure it's with your overall minutes.
Okay, great. Yeah, very good, Mickey.
Very good.
Yeah,
Thank you.
this one's really been bothering me a lot lately. In fact, I've talked to Hillary Rayport about this, and she put together. Holly, do you have that actually? Is that up on the view list? Her like a collage of the history of this block.
I wasn't privy to it.
Okay. I thought I emailed
News to me.
I emailed it to Kadeem. It might be on our own view list. Do you have access to that?
When I'm not even aware of it. So was it emailed?
I asked Kadeem to put it on our view list.
Okay, then it should be included.
But I don't see it here. I'm looking at that. So maybe
Do you know when she sent it? Yeah, I was not copied. I know nothing about it until you mentioning it. So I would love to see it. I can put it in the record.
Yeah, that would be great.
Computer. I'm going to keep looking for it, but if the rest of you have comments about this, go ahead, and I'm going to, in the meantime, look for Hillary's collage. Angus?
Thanks, Mickey. So I think all your comments are well thought out and articulated. I agree with really everything you said. One major thing about the roof deck is that, except for like the Whaling Museum and maybe the Brock building, there aren't roof decks on any of the buildings, in that core area from Broad to Main to, from the Pacific Bank all the way down to the to Easy Street. And they're generally on residential, just simply houses without commercial space below. So I think that that's out of character in addition to everything that you said.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
My main concern here really is about the massing of it, and this block needs to match all the other blocks in town as far as massing and separation of individual buildings that appear to have grown organically. This is very clearly one mass, even though it's broken up. It's all joined in a very organized way that makes it feel like one mass from street to street to street.
I totally agree.
That's all.
Okay. Jason, you want to comment? Jason? Okay.
Can't really hear you very well. I agree with everything that's been said. I just think it's completely out of character and totally inappropriate. So I feel like I can't say much more than that. The Pacific Club does have a roof walk, but that I think they'd like to increase in size back to what it was at one point, but that was a later addition. So I agree about the roof walk too, but I just think it's just totally inappropriate. So.
Yeah, it's all been said. I agree.
Lucy, did you comment already?
I think there's another roof walk on top of the sweet shop. What's that place called now?
Or the whale?
The old like what was it, Four Seasons or something?
No,
Or the Seven Seas, what was it?
no, no, no,
The
the one
Whale,
on
I
Main
think.
Street. And I remember Dirk Roggeveen saying years ago that what he hated about the roof walks downtown was that people thought of them as places to put AC units and equipment. And then I think Mickey's comments were great. And I have a real problem with balconies looking down on the streets downtown. It's too voyeuristic.
Yeah, me too. I found this document. I can try to share my screen. Never done this. How do I do that, Holly?
So down the bottom, there's a green arrow that says share screen. You have to make sure your document is open first before you do that. Hit the button, a square is gonna come up and it's gonna, yep, there you go. Perfect.
Make it bigger, I think. All right, so this is her collage. It shows the current Hardy building, or the current building as it is now. You want me to read through this as I go? You all see that, or do you want me to read?
I can see it fine.
Yeah, so can I.
Big company, big square foot. We get it. Condos.
Just pointing out, showing the elevations here. Owner wants to create residential units. So here's a description about the original A&P layer. In 1958, built the current building specifically as an A&P because there was a need for a downtown grocery store. And we tore down that two-story building and a couple of other buildings to make that happen. And even though it's the current building mass that we see today, which is pretty awkward. I guess the HDC felt at the time that it was acceptable, but I think that they were, you know, under the circumstances where there was a need for a large grocery store, they were just going to those by the current need at the time and accepting the large blockiness of the building because of it. So here's Hardee's in its day, late 1980s.
That's what I remember it as.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. And the A&P, moved to straight wharf. Beinecke built the new A&P, and so yeah, here's the current Hardee's building. And this is on that block. I'm not sure where. I think it's probably maybe facing Easy Street, or not sure where.
Correction. Beinecke didn't build the current A&P. My great grandfather and his crew did.
Right. You know, Beinecke didn't build much on his own, but he paid a lot of people to build. Who was your grandfather?
Richard Corkish Sr.
That's right. Yep.
That had his shop down on New Lane.
Yep, I remember. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then here's that two-story building, and this is here's the closer to the Pacific Club. There's this smaller gable building, and you can see to the left the two-story structure that was there before.
Wow.
So this is even prior to that two-story building. The building on the right was still there in that last photograph, but the ones to the left were torn down to make the two-story building. So this is even earlier than that. And more of those photos. Yeah, here it is. Here's the two-story building The Civic Club has got the flag draped over it at the end. So that was there prior to Hardee's. And these are just scenes that show the simple sort of vernacular of the old streetscapes in town, massing and relationship of structures. So the point being simpler, independent structures. A nice quote from John McLaughlin. I'll send this to you guys so you can get it. You can read it all on your own. And I think that's kind of good. All right. Any other comments on this one?
It's a really cool history. I had no idea about the buildings there. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Hillary's great.
Yeah. Okay. Should we move on to the next?
Yep.
If I can add just one thing to that, is that, that large 2-story building that was there before it was removed for the A&P, there is room for mass with historical precedent, but it can't be mass on top of mass next to mass. It's got to be broken up. So, I mean, there's room to do stuff and still fit into the context, but it just not as proposed.
Yeah. Agreed. Okay. 12 Lincoln Street, Lincoln Ave.
So this was the revisions to the hardscape that you all saw. There were comments about the court up front. Cobblestone arrival court removed and replaced with reinforced turf. Walkway extends, reduced with reconfigured to align with plant bed. It's a little bit better, except they don't have the before and after, I don't think. They may. Side access path over here was removed. Cut stone path to replace previously approved pea stone path. Let me zoom in here. Cobblestone ribbon driveway. Reinforced lawn.
Okay. Anybody?
Does anybody know about this turf stuff?
Let's see if it's in the packet.
It is in the packet, but I didn't know if anybody.
There's a couple of different kinds, whether or not it's the X bracing or the
This sounds.
As long as it's not that concrete, that concrete looking grid thing.
It's like there's fiber that they put in the soil or something. It sounds a little full of PFAS.
Yeah.
I watched this one at the HDC one night, and Holly, you may remember this. There was a question as to whether or not they were actually required by zoning to have these 2 parking spaces. And I don't think that they are. As far as I know, they're only required to have 1 space per dwelling.
Yeah, it depends on their zoning. If we know their zoning, I can tell you
It's
how many
R1.
bedrooms.
R1 zone,
It's a R1.
pretty sure.
If it's R1, it's 1 for the single family dwelling, and for the secondary, it's 0.6 per bedroom. So I don't know how many are in the bedroom. I do know this went through planning board because I was privy to part of that when I was still with them.
What it looks like is they're using this weird fiber thing so they can just basically park on the lawn.
So before the proponent, the applicant said but they were required to have like 4 parking spaces or more. So Holly, I would just see if they could note somehow that if they're showing them because they think they're required, that really needs to be studied. Otherwise, they don't need to park on their lawn. They won't need this reinforced lawn to do it on. Lucy, go ahead.
Well, if they want that much parking, why don't they put some parking at the other end of the lot? I think parking cars like that in front of your house is kind of, I don't know. I used the example last time of that car, that house at going up Orange Street on the right, near right across from the Anna Erickson's house.
Mhm.
That parked right in front of their porch.
I would agree that I'm really glad they got rid of the paving material there, but I don't think they need to have any parking there whatsoever. I mean, they can, if they needed them for zoning, they could stack them in the driveway just to fulfill the zoning
Yeah.
requirement. And they show the two.
I mean, there's, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, it's just not appropriate. I mean, this is a historic neighborhood and it's a parking lot.
Yep.
And I'm just concerned about what this fiber thing, I mean, it looks like it's in soil that they bring from off island. Great, more invasives. And then with all these weird fibers, I mean, what is that? I just think it's something that we shouldn't be condoning. I think we need to know more about it. It's all basically they listed in the thing as being stuff to use for like fire lanes and stuff, not for your yard if you want to, because you want to park on it.
Yeah, and the first time they aerate their lawn, forget it. It's all over the place.
Yeah, it's going to go into the landfill.
Angus?
I agree with what everyone's saying. Lincoln Circle is interesting in that a lot of the houses are facing the water. So there is parking in the back, which is really the road side of the house. But for the ones that are on the west side of the circle, there are some parking spots, but the house is much closer to the road, and the cars are pulled in what looks like beside the house, even though they might be in front. They're not really in front. All to say, this really feels like cars being parked on the front lawn, and it's extremely awkward. And whether it's cobblestone or reinforced grass or any other material to set up parking in front of the house, I think is completely inappropriate.
I agree. Brooke?
Well, I like the idea of parking from Capom. I mean, it looks like they have enough room for
Yeah.
at least a car or maybe even 2 over the propane tank. So, yeah, I don't really like cars in front of houses if it can at all be avoided. But it's an improvement over what was there.
Mhm.
So, in that regard, they've made some efforts. But if parking could come in from Capom, then those 2 spots, could certainly be moved.
Yeah. Lucy?
Yeah, put the parking at the back, get rid of that second doggy lawn.
Yeah. Yeah. If they feel they still need it, they should put it back there, not in their front yard.
This is a huge piece of property, and to have cars parked on the front lawn, I think is just completely needless. There's a lot to work with here, and there's no excuse for that.
Yep. Anybody else? Next. Which is
14 Easy Street.
14.
Yep. So I believe the commission agreed with you all and staff about these proposed fenestration changes with the sliders. So let's see. They held for revisions. Agrees with HSAB too much. So let's see what they're proposing. Quad French, really?
More sliders?
Or sliders?
Biparting sliders.
Brooke?
It's just too much. I mean, I think before it was too much, but
Billy?
Jason?
I agree with Angus.
Angus, what did you say?
I don't think have I said anything? I was just
I thought
clarifying.
you said it, I thought you said it was too much. I can't
Oh.
hear what you guys are saying. So I
That
think
was
some
Brooke.
of you are like louder than loud and some of you are softer than soft. I thought you said something about the sliders were too much.
yeah, I did.
Oh, okay, sorry.
It's not really a change.
Well, I'm for the whole building anyways, so.
Angus?
Right. I don't think that this is an improvement. I think 3 doors is better than 4 doors, or how many ever doors that is. And
Let's see.
swinging is more appropriate than sliding.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, the second floor, you've got 4 doors, 2 windows, 4 doors. It's too much. It's too mathematical. The previous or existing, I think, is much better.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. And in fact, I would even add that I'm sure there's a policy that we don't allow sliding glass doors in the old HDC. So
Yeah, I believe that's so.
I agree. You good on this one?
I'm good.
North Liberty.
Was that house? Because there was a 1930 structure on that lot, correct?
Yep.
And that was removed?
Yes. Not too long ago.
I was about to say. "32 North Liberty." So there was a revision that came back to the commission before you all. I've explained how that can happen. So this was based on the last time they saw it, which was October 20th. Really? Wow. And I did ask about some, the west elevation. It looked odd to me. But do you all remember this one? Okay. The elevation.
The window back on. Without any lights in it.
So there was a comment, you all would probably take this one of the commissioners have been talking about adding that bay window, although not historic to the 3-bay. It obviously is more contemporary than the original structure, but it shows the evolution of the structure. And there's a couple of commissioners that have kept on asking about putting it back. So there's that bay window back, which is on the, must be the south elevation, yeah. This was the west elevation that I was mentioning about. I had to ask why such a large space of shingles between the two windows, and I guess that's for a couch to be put in the middle. Nothing architecturally. I had to ask. So there's that bay window put back that you'll see when you drive up.
We build houses based on where we're putting furniture.
Mhm.
Realize that they're just the steward. Sorry.
It's okay.
I still don't, if I can go ahead, I still don't think that the gambrel on the back is appropriate, nor do I think the mass. It's eating the original part of the house. It is not, has no deference to the main part of the house. I just think it's inappropriate.
Lucy?
On that note, do I have this right? Looking at the second floor proposed floor plan, is that gambrel section in the back going to have a cathedral ceiling? Is that what that is?
Pretty likely.
In which case, there's no point in having that such a massive addition.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say it now that I agree with Jason that I don't like the gambrel on this building either. And even if they think it's okay, the roof pitches on it are very awkward, much too boxy. Angus?
I agree with what's said. I like the bay. I'm glad that the bay is showing back up again, even though it would be a later addition. I think it adds some interest to that
Right.
side. But the gambrel I don't think is appropriate, and that's not even if a gambrel was happening, that looks too boxy for a gambrel roof. I'd rather see just a straight gable that's story or story and a half.
Yeah, me too. Speaking of the bay window, why can't they show divided light windows in there? I mean, why 1/1s?
I think it is 1/1, isn't it?
That's what's existing.
Yeah.
Oh, it's existing as 1/1s? Really?
If that were getting rebuilt, I would add the muttons to it.
Well, it's not off. I think it's still there.
Yeah.
Nothing's been done to this building. Or has it?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, so
What's going on with the window schedule when it shows those windows? It looks like new windows are going into it though. Into the bay.
Hold on. Okay. D. Let's go back to the schedule. D. D.
That says 9-light casement.
9-light. Yeah.
They haven't updated it.
So if those windows do get replaced, I would want to see appropriate vertical panes in there.
Good. Anybody? Lucy, did you comment on this?
I do have a few comments. On the north elevation of barn doors, what color those were going to be. And I wasn't sure of that. Is that like a small storage shed or? I wasn't sure what that was. But if there's no color as far as I could see indicated.
It's a first floor show.
Closet.
Do you
So
see
that's
where,
to access. That's right here, correct? No, it's right here.
no, it's right there. Yeah.
So an exterior storage.
Yeah. But anyway, the paint color or lack of.
Mhm.
Let's see. And one of them shows the high fencing on. I wasn't sure about the fencing showing on the east elevation.
Well,
Other
that's
side, other
definitely
side.
application.
Oh, this?
Yeah, that. I wasn't sure about that.
Good catch. That's
I
a
think there's
tall
something there now.
fence.
Yeah, I know. You know, and is there a decent plot plan here with fencing and everything? No.
Nope.
Or AC units for that matter? And then on the south elevation of at south elevation, I have a problem with all that kind of French doors. But we brought that up before.
Yes. Yep.
And again, then this gets back to the plot plan of how patio and all that stuff. And the north elevation, that back door, should it have 9 lights or 6, or I don't know what everybody else, how everybody else feels about that.
Well, you could say that back L that they're removing already has, what is that? Is that 9 or 12?
Well,
12.
Oh.
So they're going from 12 light to a 9 and a panel.
It kind of seemed like it either should be 6 or 12.
yeah, I agree with that, Lucy. I think that should be a floodlight, which would fit into that proportions, I think, better.
12 light.
Yeah.
With the panel below.
Yeah.
Those panels are way too long. The glass panes are too long.
Yeah. And then looking at the first floor plan, that back addition that they're doing, they've got 2 fireplaces in the same room.
Wow.
That's not going to work.
It's a great room, Lucy.
I know, but you're going to have a little bit of a draw problem. And I still say that addition shouldn't be more than 1.5 stories, and it shouldn't
No,
be.
it shouldn't be, especially if it's a cathedral ceiling. That's just not appropriate.
Yeah.
And maybe they have a really big chandelier to go along with their sofa that needs to fit between the windows.
Don't forget the painting to match.
Yeah. Go ahead.
On the south elevation, I'm sure we've brought this up before, but the chimney on the outside,
Yep.
on the eave side of the house, just, I would put it inside and I would put it on the west gable, you know, and put it inside, but floating on the eave, the low side, and being outside, I don't think it's appropriate.
Unless they're going to do an outdoor fireplace.
They would have to show that.
Fire pit.
So I agree with everything that's been said, and especially this last comment that Angus just made, that fireplace chimney should not be on the outside, especially the way it's shown in front of a dormer like that. It's very awkward. And yeah, if they want one, put it in the gable on the west elevation. get rid of it there. And 2 sets of French doors are going to look even worse once they remove the fireplace. So that's too much. The ridge line of the addition is essentially even with the main ridge. That should drop. It shouldn't be right up top to the main. It should be lower.
Oh, I have something to add.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. And maybe somebody said it and I missed it, but that chimney, the way it's going up through the dormer is not appropriate. But the other thing was, did we ever get an age for the L?
Oh, good point.
That's a good question. I know that there is, of course I don't have it with me. There is an HDC survey for this. It's an 1835 to 1840, 1 3/4 story, 3 bay. Let me see. I can look it up real quick. On Macris.
Just given the age of the road.
North Liberty. See if what Lancaster says real quick.
I think the Sanborn maps would cover this area, wouldn't it?
I wouldn't be surprised if the house was older or has pieces of older pieces in it.
Mhm.
All right. North. Usually he's pretty good about putting whenever there's a addition's been on, but
We have a
apparently, what's
We have
that?
a photograph of the back of the house we could take that shows foundation.
There were photographs in the original application. You know, of course, this thing has been going on for quite some time. I think you guys originally looked at this in July. So, yeah, this has been quite some time. You know, this edition is definitely a far cry better than what the original proposal was.
Oh yeah,
you all can remember that.
Bedrooms.
You could totally see it from the east elevation, and trying to retain that existing 1830s east elevation view is obviously what's important. So we've got that.
I'm assuming they're stuck the gambrel on the back because they're using the Seth Ray house as their influence, but it's not appropriate on that style of a house.
No.
No, but back onto this. Lancaster's not telling me anything about 32 North Liberty that I can see right off the rip.
Right, because it's Seth Ray's barn that got moved across the street and they
Yeah.
attached it to the back of the house. All right, sorry to cause a delay.
That's okay.
Right, so there was a question about the age of the addition, which should be just brought up.
And it might be included in the original stuff. I can't remember. I was just gonna see.
Okay. Let's move on. for 38 Prospect.
38 prospects. Now, I will mention, and Brooke, I will send you what I've received, but we have been receiving comments from abutters on this application or these applications.
All right, which one? Like 28 or 38?
Well, both. I know
Alright.
you've seen the ones for 28. Which one has the pool or had the pool?
That was 28. We're not
That's what I thought. Yeah, and you're not moving forward with that one, with the pool.
with the pool, no.
Okay, so 38, let's do the main house first.
Okay. So these are the comments from the commission after listening to your comments. Context. That's my step grandparents' house.
They owned everything.
No, it's called, I have many roots on Nantucket. Different family. It's my step grandparents.
Anybody want to begin? Thoughts? Angus?
What?
Any comments?
I think this is a perfectly fine design somewhere else, but in this location, I'm still uncomfortable with it.
Yeah.
I agree, Angus.
So do I.
And you've got the Fraker house and the house on the other side. And even if you go further down, the Ham Pony lot, the houses in that area could influence us a lot. I don't think it really fits.
Lucy?
I agree.
Yeah. I wrote a few comments about this one myself, and it's basically saying the same thing. So I said, flipping the house with a cottage is a big improvement, but this house style is not appropriate for the old historic district. Any new buildings in this area should look like they were built in the 1800s, either as a Quaker or possibly Greek revival style. This house looks like it was designed for the Surfside area, not the old historic district. It's going to set a precedent for the rest of this development, which stretches down to the Ponyfield area. Houses in that area are very traditional old Nantucket townhouses, not of this style. This will be a highly visible site and should follow the guidelines for the old HD. I think it needs to be redesigned in the more appropriate style. And also, Holly, just as a note, I believe they're asking for SDLs. Is that still the case? Rather than TDLs for the windows?
That is what's on the application, Mr. Rowland.
So those should be TDLs. Holly, just as another comment in general, when you read our HSAB comments at the meeting, can you read them after the project is introduced and after the applicant has spoken, but just before the board members start commenting?
I'd have to ask the chair. Normally I say them in the beginning, because if
Mhm.
not, sometimes they can get past me. And saying it first and foremost kind of gets it on their,
Well,
mindset.
I've noticed that in the past, what happens is you'll be reading the comments and they haven't even seen the house to understand what your comments relate to yet. So if the whole project is, especially in a first application of it, if the project can be presented and then we comment on the plans, then it'll make more sense to them.
I'll ask the chair.
Thanks.
I think that's a good idea, Mickey. It's hard to put the comments into context without seeing.
I agree. I think that while they're at least looking at the drawings or starting to look at the drawings, if Holly is speaking, then they'll be hearing those words, and it will be maybe more effective in getting them to see the point of the HSAB.
Duly noted. I try to sometimes go through and I'm the one that's projecting, just like I'm projecting them for you. I'm the one who projects them for 99% of the HTC meetings. So trying to look at the minutes, read them, and try to scroll through the pages at the same time can be a little cumbersome, but I try to do that as well. So, but I will ask the chair if that's okay.
Good. Thanks, Holly.
It may save them some time too, because we've already had a discussion, and it might save them time having another one on certain items.
Yep. Any more comments on this application?
I think when I think of Prospect Street, I'm thinking about 17 and 23 and 25. Just quintessential Quaker style story and a half. I think that sort of massing and simplicity of design would be most appropriate in this area.
Definitely.
There's some context photos, but I think they're the things that look out of place.
Good. Okay, the cottage.
So the HTC actually preferred the original submission with the front door facing North Mill instead of what, trying to make it a faux garage. They also wanted to see that dormer facing Prospect split up and also rotate the building away from Prospect Street a little bit. And you can see on the site plan where there's a gray line. That was the original proposal where it had it parallel, and now it's rotated away from the street and pushed deeper into the lot, so it's not so prominent on either street.
Better. Any thoughts?
Rick, what's happening to all the brambles and stuff that's there? Is that being stripped away, or is that going to be kept as a buffer?
I don't know. I would not promise that it would stay. What I would promise is that there will be vegetation there. There's a ton of car noise there. So just from a completely selfish perspective, they're going to screen it for that reason and for privacy.
And is that blank wall, the wall that's facing, the blank wall that has the dormer at the top, is that what's facing Prospect?
The two shed dormers.
Which,
If you scroll all the way down to the drawings with the revision clouds, the south elevation, and there's 2 shed dormers split up.
Yep, okay.
Lucy,
Oh, no comment.
Angus?
I just feel like it's too close to Prospect for a building like this. It feels contemporary, and it feels right up on the street, and it's right up on the street, and the side is facing the street. If it were set, 3 or 4 times further back and really screened by trees and land and stuff, it would make more sense to me. I get why the HDC wouldn't want the doors facing Mill or New Mill or whatever that street is, North Mill, because the rest of the house, the rest of it feels like a second dwelling or a guest house, as opposed to like a barn. And I think it's just because of the dormer in the second floor that do that. So I get that with, preferring the door at the gable end, the actual, like, not garage door, but pedestrian door. But yeah, in general, I feel like it's trying to force too much too close to the corner. That's it.
If Angus, if those 2 shed dormers were removed, would that be something you could deal with?
I think the more that it looks like a barn, the more you can, for me, it would be appropriate to be that close to the road. I mean, I'd prefer for it to be further away anyway, but the lower the eave and the less going on, like, not having dormers, even if there were low windows under the eave, I think you could have fenestration, but I think simplicity would be the key here.
I agree. It made it look more like a barn.
Oh, barn is, is it gambrel barn or just gable storage?
No, I don't. I'm trying to think of a building around there that in the neighborhood that you could use, but I can't. I'm walking up and down the street in my mind, but I'm trying to. I know it's not that tall, right? It's like 22.
Yeah, this is 22 for.
It just feels really tall. I'm also wondering if what the dormer would look like if you did a doghouse instead of.
Ugh.
I appreciate the little the front door of it. But
What about this? What about digging into the grade a little bit more with this? I'd have to move that door facing North Mill around the corner again, but if I could drop it 2 to 3 feet into the grade, that certainly would lower it. I could still maybe get the same program. It just wouldn't be as prominent on the street.
I feel like you need to talk to Prospect more too with a people door or something.
It's not, but that's not the elevation.
I know, but I'm just.
North Mill is the street.
I know, but I'm just
You
trying
can't
to
have doors everywhere.
make Prospect because it is close to Prospect.
I like the idea of sinking it into the hill. If you brought the foundation to the height of the driveway, the shingle line down there.
Yeah, and on the uphill side, the shingle line would, be with the upper grade.
And get rid of the dormers facing the street. I think just the more it looks utilitarian, the more sense it makes.
Yeah, I like the idea of a barn look that Angus brought up. There's a great book called Cape Cod Barns, which I gave Mickey and Ben to look at when they designed my barn.
You know, on New Mill, there is, there's a red trimmed house. It's the second one in on the left.
Mhm.
That has a garage barn set at the back that hasn't been overly fiddled with. It's next to the poorhouse, which has the green trim as you go down. It's kind of a box, but
I'm gonna
it's
I'm gonna add
old.
to this discussion.
I think I get the point.
Well, let me make a couple more comments, Brooke. I'm sure you do get the point, but I'm going to reinforce the concept that I'd love to see a barn here, and I don't mean a gambrel shape, but more of a simple gable. But as Angus pointed out, simple is really good. Dormers complicate that a little bit. Maybe less symmetry. Barns were very informal and utilitarian, sort of random windows. You know what we mean by barn, like carriage house, that kind of thing maybe. But I'm also going to say in a sense, maybe this will have to track with the house because you've got a 12 pitch on this, which is pretty steep.
It's a 10.
Is it 10? Okay.
It's a 10. They actually asked, the HDC asked me to change the roof pitch of the house to 10 from 9. And
Huh.
so I did the same with the cottage.
I see. Well, okay. And I think rotating it away even further from Prospect, you've done a little bit, but I'd maybe rotate it a little bit more. And push it back in. Sure, if you can get it lower, all the better. And I just reinforced barn. I think it's weird to see a little second dwelling in this location, but a barn I think would fit into the sort of the general theme of Prospect Street much better. Yeah, the 6/1s. I think if you go with a different direction, they change too, obviously. Anybody else?
Oh.
Next.
Oh, I just wanted to say about the fenestration. I've been more focused on the massing, but the fenestration, again, with the idea of it being utilitarian, I would go with 6/6 as opposed to 6/1, where it's clearly for a view.
Yeah. Good. Okay. 45 Westchester.
So they did not hear this last, so they weren't going to have a quorum, I believe is what the issue was. But nonetheless, your comments were read into the record. They changed, I guess, the plan itself. There was an issue with the drawing, so these are revised.
Didn't we ask for it to be moved?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because you drive down New Lane and that's all you see is the shed. Because I believe when you come down New Lane, that's the house is that right there at the end.
I think we also asked that they put the hedge running
Right where you turn.
right in front of it.
Yeah, we wanted it
Yes.
behind the hedge.
Yeah, why can't it go behind the hedge? I mean, all the stuff that they showed for context is not context.
Yeah.
No,
It's like
it's not.
way far afield, garages, not the same.
So, Lucy?
I thought we all agreed that it should definitely be behind the hedge, and we did say, I guess what gable end would be. No, I can't remember how it should be positioned behind the hedge, but there should be a gap in the hedge and then you walk through it and access the shed.
You all asked for it to be gable forward,
Okay.
behind
all
the
right.
hedge.
Thank you, Holly.
No, I don't I mean, I think that did come up and I don't necessarily, personally, as long as it's behind the hedge, I don't mind it being sideways as it is, because I think it in fact be less visible to see the side of the roof rather than the gable end. But if it's behind the hedge, it's behind the hedge. Brooke?
I honestly don't know. I think it would be better behind the hedge. But looking at the photo, the first photo with the black car, I mean, if that's as big as the shed is, it's not that offensive. Especially when you look at For Angola as their other, their comparison. And that was actually one that we asked to be pushed way far back, and that's a new one. But it got built right up against the house. So I don't know. I don't care that much about this, I have to say.
Angus?
I think it wants to be behind the hedge, and immediate access to the drive is going to be easier with the gable forward, but I think it would be less imposing, even though you see the width of it, to have the eave come up from the hedge rather than the gable poking over the hedge. So I guess I would prefer for the gable to go north-south, perpendicular to the, parallel with the road rather than perpendicular. But the most important thing, I think, is having it behind the hedge. It just feels like a storage locker the way they're showing it in the picture there.
Good. Did anybody else have anything on this one?
Well, I would add too, I mean, it's not under our jurisdiction, but for security, for all their stuff that they're going to put in there, having it behind the hedge would be better anyway.
Yep. Yeah, I agree, behind the hedge, and I think, I'm not sure if you said it right, Angus, but the ridge running east-west as it's already shown.
Yeah.
But,
And it's literally what you're going to see when you come down New Lane, is you're going to see a shed.
So I think we already said it all. Okay, that's it.
All right.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mickey.
We do have a couple of other
Nice
business
answer.
just to mention. I have kept you guys up to date on Resilient Nantucket. We're going to be having a community design guidelines charrette with our consultants. This is the consultant that we've hired through the MVP Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Grant from the state to create our design guidelines down in our locations of the historic district that are within FEMA flood areas, dealing with elevations, adaptation, all that stuff. It's going to be November 14th, which is a Saturday, for between 10 and 1. And of course, we would via Zoom. Would love to have you participate. The next thing is that South Water Street, our lovely project that we've looked at today, is going to be before the HDC for a special meeting October 30th at 10 o'clock. As soon as I receive the Zoom information, I will forward that along to you all. I think the best part is we would probably want to post a meeting for open meeting law purposes, because I would think you all would want to participate, or if at least we're going to have a quorum, then we need to just cover that. So we'll post that. And then if this is the time for our HDC advisory board committee appointments. So if you are at the end of your quote unquote term and you would like to resubmit or reapply, that is due coming up. I just received, where is it? I just had it right here. So the Nantucket Historic District Commission is seeking members and alternate members for the Wisconsin Advisory Board, Historic Structures Advisory Board, Mattocket Advisory Board, Sign Advisory Council, and Tuckernutt Advisory Board. And the applications are due no later than 10 a.m. Thursday, November 12th. I have a form. If you are interested, you have not received a form of that. If you need to update, would like to have you continue. So don't forget to do that. Let me know if you got any questions, myself or Kathy.
So Holly, how do we know when our term's up? Are we notified?
I believe your terms are actually indicated on the town's website. If you go to Historic Structures Advisory Board page through the board page, it's got you all listed and your terms of when you expire. So obviously, those are the dates that we go by. I haven't heard otherwise. So we would want you to continue and get those applications in. And then I believe, the HDC will appoint the applicants at their meeting on November 17th. So that's important to note.
You see your 2022.
I am.
Yes,
Okay.
Angus and I are 2021 and Brooke and Mickey are 2020.
All right.
And I will note, this is something that's been on our mind, but obviously we've had other priorities to deal with during the pandemic. So it's not, it's important, but at the same time, it hasn't had the top priority list. So we need to get that going. You will see probably this week, you'll probably see that posted in the Inky. So that's it, Mr. Chair.
All right. No other comments from anybody? I don't think so. So motion to approve comments for agenda items.
So moved.
Second,
Brooke made the motion, Lucy seconded. All those in favor, Lucy? As an aye, Jason?
Aye.
Angus?
aye.
Brooke?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Is there a motion to adjourn?
A motion,
By
Second.
Angus, seconded by Lucy. Lucy, you in favor?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Angus?
aye.
Brooke?
Yes, aye.
And I'm an aye. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Nikki.
Thanks,
Glad
Holly.
everybody was here. Thank you.